Howdy ho ho, my good humans. How the hell are you doing? This is Unnecessary Rambling. I'm Brandon Sylvia. I am joined by my homie Mr. Looney in the building. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Thanks for having me back.
No problem, dude. It's so we're halfway through the generation. If the rumors or I guess the leaks are to be believed from the FTC hearing that the next console generation will begin in 2028. We're about halfway through, and I know there's rumor of the next Xbox console launching around 2026. So who knows if we're actually halfway through, but it felt like a good time to do our top 10 games of the generation so far. And so we both got 10 games apiece. The only rule here for our list is it had to be games that launched between November 10th of 2020 to now, 2024. And also, just to go ahead and preface this, I have not played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth yet. It's we're recording this the day before it comes out. I'm sure by the time I release the video, it will already, be out and people will have been playing it and raving about it left, right, and center. So I didn't want to record this like right after I began playing Rebirth, and then I'm like trying to weigh in my head, is it in that top 10? And I want to have time to finish and all that, but we'll come back in 4 years if we're still here on the YouTubes, we'll come back in 4 years and give our final top 10 for the generation. So, Loon, uh, how, well, we'll maybe save that for a different topic. I was going to ask you how you're feeling about the generation so far, just in general, but maybe I think that might be a good video to kind of just dive into at some point, talk about
Yeah,
all our
as
feelings.
a as an extended, obviously, opinion, but to summarize it, I don't think it's as bad as people think. I think obviously there's been because we literally just said before this, like Insomniac, not Insomniac, is it Insomniac that do Ratchet and Clank?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're one of the only few people to have utilized the whole SSD thing, which is the big driving factor that they were using to sell these next gen consoles. And they're one of the only few developers that have fully utilized it still to this day. So
Yeah.
I guess on a performance side and pushing it as far as it can go, it's disappointing. And there's been a lot of more safer games, but I think for games itself, it's been a pretty good generation. I'm pretty happy with it.
I think, yeah, that's the funny thing when looking through my list and thinking about, we're doing this ninth generation best games of the ninth generation. And it's like, well, most, let's see, pretty much every game on my list except for a couple here are available on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So it's like, it feels I'm with you. I think the games of this generation have been pretty damn solid, but I mean 2023 in general, one of the greatest years in gaming, and 2022 was really good as well. But it feels like we haven't really seen this technology fully pushed to its limit yet. And yeah, I don't know. It's I feel like generations are kind of starting to blend together. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
getting harder and harder to identify what a generation is, but we're gonna try to do that here today. So we'll see how it goes. You want to hit me with your number 10 first, Loon?
Oh, absolutely. It's actually a game that's pretty near and dear to your heart.
Oh, okay.
Um, a Game Pass game, day one.
Okay.
Extremely narrative driven,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
As Dusk Falls.
Oh, that's not I was
Oh,
okay.
curveball,
That's
curveball.
okay. Hey, that's
What
getting
did you
physical.
What did you think it was? Just
I was
as
thinking Requiem, Plague Tale.
good shout, good shout. But no, As Dusk Falls, like I haven't my list as well. I should preface. I could only pick, and this was probably only for me. I don't know if you followed that rule. Was unless I finished it, and I
Oh
haven't
yeah.
finished Requiem yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you're gonna notice a few things missing, like for instance, Jedi Survivor doesn't make my list, even though it's an incredible game, stuff like that. But yeah, back to As Dusk Falls. I heard you raving about it constantly. Like you when you'd played it, you was like, "Dude, this is the shit." And I was like, "There's no way like it's that good," because a lot of games get slept on Game Pass. Like Yakuza and stuff has only started gaining traction now with its like what eighth game.
Yeah.
Um, it really didn't seem to make many people's lists. A lot of people slept on it, and looking at it as well, it seems simplistic when you're just brushing over it. But dude, that art style really is, I don't know how to explain it. Like it just fit really, really cool and unique. And there's
Yeah,
nothing else quite like it. And the writing and the characters were just spot on. Really, really intriguing. And I'm hoping, because there has been rumors that there might be a sequel, because they've left the story open for a sequel.
for sure they did.
With how many different branches as well, I should add. Obviously, I don't know every single ending. I didn't do all of them, but really,
Yeah.
really good game.
Well, it's funny. I think that a lot of, or I think some of the staff is ex Quantic Dreams developers, if I'm not mistaken.
And
And
you
you
can
see that,
definitely tell that because so I think they break it into like story chapters, and then at the end of it, they show you all the different branches like a Quantic Dream game does. And I was like, that
yes,
looks
yeah,
familiar.
it is very, very similar. But like, I think you hit it on the head about the art style. The art style is it. When I first saw it, I was like, "Ooh, man, a full, narrative adventure game with that art style." When that's what I'm going to be looking at for 8 hours, like I could see that getting a bit stale. But somehow, for whatever reason, it just works. The art style blended with the narrative, and like you said, how many branching pathways that you have, and like it really does feel like you have control of the story, and the story is just so well written. These characters feel so human, and
Mm.
yeah, just a good road trip story and some family dynamics, some hostage situations breaking out. Like it turns crazy as hell towards the end.
Yeah, and I didn't expect it, obviously without spoilers, I didn't expect it to go as expansive. I thought it was all just going to be really tight and contained and a short story. It's a fairly chunky story that goes places, and
Yeah.
it's crazy. Because I even went and looked up different videos of like what. Okay, I chose this. I don't really want to sit through it all again, but like
Yep.
what would have happened, and it was like Jesus Christ, this like really does change.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Went and looked at some of
Mm.
the other, yeah. It's that's a really good shout out for number 10. That's one that is definitely a hidden gem. It's getting a physical release as well.
Hopefully for Xbox,
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, you would
because they were.
definitely think so.
I can't remember if it was either hinted that it might have been one of the games that they were thinking of putting over to PlayStation, or it's definitely coming to PlayStation.
It's definitely coming to PlayStation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is. See it on Best Buy right now, 44.99. Bit steep, but it is releasing 4/30/24. Now let's go to Xbox, see if it's coming to Xbox. It looks like it is. Yeah, I don't know this. Let's see. No, it's just
I mean,
digital.
we won't know. I was about to say, yeah, we won't know even for certainty because that's another thing that we've obviously touched on in previous videos that they say that Xbox are getting releases and they don't end up going through with them.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Whenever you do it on Best Buy, I'll screen capture this real quick. That way I can put it into the video to show people what I'm looking at. It's really interesting. You go to PlayStation and you got the physical copy, and then when you want to switch it over to Xbox, the price drops down to 29.99 and it's only a digital copy. That's such a
Well,
bummer, man.
regardless, even with it being digital only, it's still an incredible game.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely
And
recommend it.
yep, on Game Pass as well, so cannot go wrong there.
Right.
So
What is your number 10?
my number 10, I'm going with Resident Evil 8. And so out the gate here, I have to admit this is all gameplay to me. Like I could care less at all about the story in Resident Evil 8. Like I'm so ready to move on past the Winters family. I don't find anything about their story interesting. I didn't find anything about their story interesting in 8. The DLC, the even RE7. I think but here's the thing. I like RE8 more than RE7 because RE7, as atmospheric and eerie as it was, as much as I loved the setting, the enemy variety was so lacking in RE7. And RE8 just feels like, I mean, they're throwing the rogues gallery of iconic horror enemy types at you, and you're just getting to
Yeah,
blast away at them. You know, you're talking about your werewolves and your vampires, and obviously the big ass bosses. You have your gargoyles and zombie. Like it has everything thrown in there, and they're all fun to fight. Um, it, I think the thing about Resident Evil to me, because RE4 and RE2 are my favorite Resident Evil games of all time. And I don't think either of those games are scary. I think Resident Evil is at its best when it's embracing the cheesiness, the zaniness, kind of the silliness of horror. And I
yep,
think RE8 is a perfect encapsulation of that. It is so silly. It's such a silly game. You know, Lady D, this 8 foot tall, super fine ass damn boss that you're taking on, like it's a crazy, silly game. But with that being said, I think the scariest moment in the history or the scariest sequence of moments in the history of Resident Evil games occurs in RE8. So it's like, I don't know, they kind of do both. They can have their cake and eat it too, which is really, really impressive. And just from a first person shooter standpoint, it's the best controlling of the new era of
yeah,
Resident Evil games for sure.
absolutely.
It feels great to play. So yeah, that would be my number 10.
Oh, a very good pick. And just is that are these rated to number one will definitely be number one, as in like your best.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's incredible. That's that low then.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That
Jesus
see
Christ.
that's the thing that you were saying earlier is like it's been a good generation in terms
Mm,
of content, quality content, but once again, Resident Evil 8 is available on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, if I'm not mistaken, right?
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so it's like even though it's a weird generation. Definitely a
But I
weird
think
generation.
it a lot of these titles, like when you scroll through them, are all of like a lot of them are available on the other generation. It is a very strange generation.
It's starting really slow, man, and especially if Xbox is about to get out and
Yeah.
kind of pivot to the next generation. It's like, damn, this is gonna be almost a non-starter of a console generation. So we'll see.
Right. Well, number nine for me is something close to my heart. And it's definitely a me pick because you this wouldn't probably get anywhere near like top 50 for you. And that's Elix 2
Okay.
for me. Um, does it have its problems? Absolutely, but I love it regardless. Um, something about the way that they do their games really speaks to me. Going through and playing like Risen and stuff, and it's rough as shit. And that's like I'm talking across the board, like movement, combat, voice acting is dreadful. But it just has that tiny bit of a spark where it's like you can tell it's made completely with love and passion because just the tiny things that they end up doing, like with the faction system, the Elix franchise and stuff, where they didn't have to go that hard and try and balance all these different kind of things. They could have just gone for a fantasy or a sci-fi, but they said, well, why not just blend it? Screw it. Like this rock hits the planet and yeah, there's these sci-fi alb guys with laser guns, and there's also these drug addict raiders that just live in a crater. Why not? Um, it's sad that they're obviously closing down, so we're not going to be seeing Elix through. That's slightly unfortunate. So it makes me feel like I want to push it a little bit more
Yeah.
into the eyes of other people. But yeah, definitely a me pick.
I mean, hey, I played it over 50 hours, man. I had a good time with Elix. Like you said, it's rough around the edges to like an obvious degree. You know what I mean? Like it's obviously the term Eurojank, whatever you want to call it, it embraces that full force, you know.
Yeah,
So it, but the thing is, I think with Elix 2, like you said, with the factions, that is really impressive stuff that they pulled off there. And I know you said Elix 1, it's even more impressive on that front with the
Yeah, the factions in Elix 1 were a lot more fleshed out and stuff
yeah.
because in Elix 2 they it was jarring a little bit because of what happened in Elix 1. You'd expect people to still be like, okay, there's a common threat, but they just don't bother doing it. You just
Mm,
get called a liar. But that
yeah.
seems to be a theme that they did that in the Risen game as well. You find this common threat, and then in Risen 2, you're just some washed up drunk because no one believed you, and then the world ends.
But like, dude, the jetpacking around that world and stuff was really, really
Yes.
fun. It was like extremely fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a game changer for an open world game to have that level of traversal and stuff.
Yeah.
It was yeah, really really cool.
Yeah, it's such a bummer, man. Damn Embracer. Damn Embracer. Plug our last episode of our podcast. I'll link it down below. We go on a full rant.
Embraces chaos.
I swear to God. Number 9 for me, man. I am gonna go with Sifu. And
Mm.
yeah, I've talked about this on the channel at length, so I'll be very brief on this. I I think Sifu, for one, level design is immaculate. The entire structure of Sifu of a roguelike that is dependent upon trying to stay as young as possible, and each time you fail, you age up. So you're trying to stay as young as possible because I think if you get to 70 or 75, you have to start all the way over from the beginning. So each time you fail, you're getting older. And really, the whole driving factor of this game is trying to get to the final level, around age 40, 50 or so. That way you can go into that final boss fight and have a little bit of room to spare, a little bit of wiggle room, because it's very tough. And that's the thing about Sifu. It's not my style of game at all. I really don't like punishingly difficult games. And I've talked about this at length as well. It's just not, that's not why I play games. But something about Sifu just like made me want to get good, and I wanted to learn all the different patterns and try to really understand this game on a deeper level. And I think it's a testament to the game's quality that I didn't really care about how hard it was ever. Like, you get frustrated, of course, but I was just having so much fun. I found the gameplay, the movement, obviously the atmosphere. I found it all to be so compelling that I was fine getting my ass kicked over and over again and just learning new moves and getting these different upgrades and trying to master this very intricate combat loop. I was fine with consistently failing until I got, a better understanding of the game. And it's also not overly long, which I think is, whenever you say, okay, hey, here's this 70-hour Souls game, I'm just like, dude, I don't want to be frustrated for 70 hours. But if you tell me here's a 15-hour, pretty hard uh action game or whatever, I'm like, okay, cool. That's fine with me. I can put in that amount of time. So yeah,
I, th
Sifu, go ahead.
I think you described it really well though. You said it wasn't like it was never rage inducing. Like it never you didn't put the controller down and go, I'm coming back to this. I don't want to play this right now. And that's the perfect balance that you want to see in like a Souls-like kind of thing. And that's what a lot of them do as well. They just have this stigma of being difficult and stuff. But it's like you said with Sifu, you were learning how the game played, how the mechanics worked. And then once you click with that, the further hours leading on to through the game, they may be 70 hours. But the first 5 hours, you might feel like really annoyed and stuff because you're not understanding it. But then once that clicks, it becomes a hell of a lot easier, just like Sifu. Because yeah, I only put in. You say it's short. I think I only put in about an hour and a half, 2 hours of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't stop because it was too challenging. I actually stopped because the right bumper of my controller stopped working.
Oh Lord, well yeah.
So I need to get back to that at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, when I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, for one, I just don't like overly long games in general, unless it's like a, very narrative driven. Like if I'm there for the story and it's 70 hours of a great story, then, that's one thing. But it's Seafood, it was the perfect game for me, 10, 15 hours, you're gonna struggle, you're gonna learn, you're gonna get through it. And yeah, it's a real kind of surprise, not surprised it because I think people expected it to be good. I just didn't expect myself to love it as much as I did. So yeah, my
I
number
don't think
nine.
people expect it to be that good though. Like it
I
was
would,
definitely punching well above its weight. Like you knew it was going to be a good experience, but what it delivered was incredible.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I knew when PlayStation got on board with it for to lock it down for the timed exclusive thing, I was like, okay, there's probably something here. You know what I mean? That's kind of the same thing with As Dusk Falls. I'm like, well, with Xbox locking it down for a
Mm.
little bit, I was like, okay, well, what's they have to see something. This is a
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar company. Like, what do they see in it? So, yeah, man, it was a real treat. My number nine.
All right. Well, my number eight, and I'm just going to quickly. I mean, technically, that this is probably the only traditional JRPG that's on my list. That's Tales of Arise. Really, really surprised me. Never touched any of the Tales games before. Um, was recommended it by a friend. Started playing it. Really, really clicked with the combat because I'm not. I can. I'm okay with turn-based, but I would rather it be more of an action-oriented game to be a little bit more engaging if I could choose of the two. And it blended. The combat was really, really good, really enjoyable. The story a little bit cliche in parts, but enjoyable overall, and the characters were good. And it was just a feels good game. It landed perfectly for me at the time that I needed it. And yeah, a list that I've also 100%, so you know that it's something that I definitely enjoyed.
So this is because I played like 15, 20 hours of it. And like you said, I just kind of I, I thought the combat was fun. I really wasn't. The story just didn't. It started off really strong. Like the opening of that story, I was like, oh my God, this is super interesting. And then I kind
Mm.
of I fell off of it a little bit. Would you say that by the end of it, it felt like it picked up, let down? Like, what does it get
I
better?
It does get better for me, but I because I talked to a friend about it, and I was like baffled by the, the ending. Essentially, like I didn't see that coming at all. And they were like, "Oh yeah, they do that in like most Tales games," and I was like, "Oh okay." So for
Yeah.
the fans, they kind of expected that. There's me sitting here, um, and yeah, that just completely shocked me. Really, but it shows that it really resonated with people because it's the first Tales game to ever get like story DLC. It's unheard of. And that story DLC launched, I think, November last year, and kind of continued on the story a little bit more. And that was a really, really good DLC as well.
Nice. Yeah. So you played the all the DLC?
I didn't finish it yet
Okay.
because I think during that time I was going through Like a Dragon as well.
I
So I was like,
got you.
I need to get through this for Infinite Wealth.
And it's on Game Pass now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, one of the new additions. So definitely check it out.
I'm over here, I'm trying to look up. There's this game that just recently got announced, and it's an action-oriented JRPG. And I know Wario64 tweeted about it recently, and I'm like just scrolling through his feed trying to find it, and I can't. It was like Wisteria or okay, here it is. Awesome. Reynatis, Reynatis. If when you get finished with this, give it a look if you haven't seen it. It looks crazy. It's like like a third person shooter and also a hack and slash with this kind of anime art style. I'll throw it in the video so people can see it. Like it looks really, really interesting. I
Is it
haven't.
out? Is it out now or is it coming out?
No, it's coming out, I think, in the fall, if I'm not mistaken, and it's getting a physical print run. So
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
it looks really good, like surprisingly good. So it just it kind of reminds me of Tales of Arise, but it has
Hmm,
more of like a urban environment. You have some cityscapes and stuff that you're exploring. It looks really interesting. But
hmm.
yeah, so Tales of Arise, your number eight.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. My number eight, I am gonna go with Lost Judgment. And so
My
this,
heartbreak.
oh, you didn't like it?
I just can't connect with the Judgment series like you can,
Right.
man.
Right. Well, I guess that's a thing worth saying off the top here is that I have never played the Yakuza games. So I played Judgment as like my entry point into that world in 2019. And so, I'm playing it and I'm because I've always wanted to play the Yakuza games, but it's such a daunting task. And like I that's going to be a series where, it's looking like the apocalypse of video games is coming pretty soon, unfortunately, with all these layoffs, this, that, and the other. It's looking like we're definitely going to go through a drought at some point in the next few years. So I'm not looking forward to that, but in that time period, that's going to have to be where I boot up the Yakuza games because I'm going to want to play through all of them. And so with that being so daunting and Judgment coming out in 2019, I was like, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect for me. And I jumped in, loved Judgment in 2019, but Lost Judgment, the 2021 release, the follow-up. I mean, it it's so crazy what you can do by, you know, keeping similar keeping a similar setting, not having to totally rebuild a world, but just layering systems on top of the
Yeah.
previously existing systems. And like Lost Judgment is the perfect example of that, where you now have skateboarding in the game, which is just like that out the gate. You're just like, what the hell? I'm able to skateboard around this world. I get into skateboarding competitions. You have a boxing mini game competition. You have motorcycle clubs. You have uh, dating mini games, drone battles. Like it's nuts the amount of features in this game. And that's kind of the most crazy thing about it is they're just features. They're
Yep.
accompanying, this larger detective third person brawler beat 'em up action game. And even there with the action the combat mechanics, they layer on complex or not complex, but they layer systems to that the previously established foundation of Judgment in 2019. It's the same combat system, but now you can dodge, now you can block, now you can kind of parry and do these different moves. So they have more of a defensive structure to
Yep.
Lost Judgment. So there's more strategy there. It's just and the story is really, really interesting. It takes a spin that is uh just something I wouldn't expect, kind of thought provoking in a lot of ways, and also a little bit uh I don't how do I say this? It's not something it's subject matter that is not explored often at all. I'll say that. And it's a little bit controversial, I'll say.
Hmm.
So yeah, just a really, really interesting twist. Really interesting twist.
Oh, fair enough. It's what they're really good at though, is going back to what you said with the whole layering on different systems and then also building on them systems. And I think what really helps them, I don't know if you remember, where was the setting? Was it Kamurocho, the city?
I think that's the name, I believe.
Because it's the same as the Yakuza one. I think it's set in the same thing. And that's what really helps this team just allow them to focus on everything else. Because unlike Western studios where they're constantly, you think of a GTA and you think every single new GTA is in either a brand new city or they overhaul it completely.
Yeah.
No, they do minor tweaks to Kamurocho, but it's the same core that it has been since the very first Yakuza game.
Yeah.
They just modernize it, so they change it with the times. They look at what's going on in like modern day Tokyo and be like, well, we'll change this and this, and it frees up so much time for them so that
Yeah.
they can focus on these crazy other things. And I don't know why other developers don't do this.
Yeah, so they it is Kamurocho, and then they also, I think I'm gonna butcher this. Isekai Jinko?
Okay. Yep.
So yeah, they expand into another city as well, which um yeah, I think that's where all of the school stuff takes place if I'm not mistaken. Because that I didn't even mention that. That's a whole separate thing where you
Hmm?
have these like you're kind of 21 Jump Street style. You're going into this high school and you got to do these investigations, a bunch of bullying and shit going down over there. Like it's a it's a fascinating game that is humongous. I mean, it probably took me 40, 50 hours to finish this thing. It's crazy how
Yeah.
much content is in it.
Yeah. You could probably blitz through the story in about 20 hours in a lot of Yakuza games, but you just get constantly sucked into, oh, I'll try out this. Oh, I'll try this out. Oh, I'll try that. Because they have
Well,
so much to offer.
I mean, the boxing minigame alone, like I played I'm gonna put what's the Rocky spinoff with Michael B. Jordan? Um
Creed?
Creed. They put out a Creed game, like a
Oh,
full
yeah.
game.
Yeah, yeah.
And the boxing minigame in Lost Judgment is more in depth than that entire game. So it's like it's wild. It's really, really wild. So yeah, that's my number eight.
Very good number eight. If only it was a Yakuza. Number seven for me. I don't think it cheating a little bit because I think this got an earlier release on other platforms, on PC in particular, but it has only recently just come out on Xbox. So it's the first time I'm experiencing it. And that's called Inscription. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't played it, but I know
Holy
exactly what you're talking
hell.
about.
Like, really big fan into card games. Really, really big fan. And it takes turns. It's one of them things where it has layers to it, and it like an Undertale, where there's more to the game than meets the eye. But even like the base concept of it, the normal card game is incredible and fun to play. Like even if they just kept it at that, it would have still made the same number on this list. But just adding them extra little bits was really, really cool. And a rare instance where I wasn't spoiled for something. Usually the internet will just, I know all the secrets of Undertale and everything without even having to play the damn thing because people have gone on and on and on about it. This kind of flew under my radar, and I was just going in with the knowledge that it's just a card game. So it completely, yeah,
Yeah,
blew my socks off.
that's one of those games where like the bubbling, you started to it's one of those weird phenomenons where a game comes out and you hear about it, then you hear a little bit more about it, and like as time goes on, you're just hearing more and more and more. And I remember
Yeah,
this was 20, was it 2022, 2021? I remember seeing
I think it
this
was
on
2021 is when it first released.
Okay. I remember seeing this on a lot of Game of the Year lists for different
Mm,
podcasts and stuff. Like people really went to bat for this game. And it's kind of, from what I gathered, one of those games where the less you know, the better going
yeah,
into it. Because it totally, from what I heard, just flips on its head multiple times.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
really incredible. And obviously, I can't say any more
right.
without spoiling it. So it'll have to be a brief. But yeah, really, really good. Check it out. And it's fairly cheap. Didn't
And
even launch on Xbox for all that much money.
just recently got a physical release.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
So, anybody in the physical market, that's I'll definitely pick it up at some point and give it a go.
Yeah.
My number seven, speaking of seven, Cyberpunk 2077. Now, This is the one I really struggled with because I mean it does qualify to be in our list. It came out December 2020,
Hmm.
but when it launched, it was only available for last gen consoles, you know what I mean, and PC. And so like until last year, you couldn't even pick up a PS5 disc or a Series X disc of this thing. And so I struggled with that, but then I started thinking about it and I was like, because I played it on the PlayStation 4 when it came out, and it was unplayable. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And
Same
I
with
am
me on the Xbox One X. It was even the upgraded Xbox One, and it still ran like shit.
so I feel like at that point, if it's almost unplayable on those last gen systems, then I'm gonna consider it a ninth gen game. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And and like you said, with RE8 and a bunch of other games, like it's fine if they are on other systems, but like I would never, ever, ever in a million years recommend playing this on last gen systems. So to me, I kind of do look at this as like an exclusive to this generation. You know what I mean? Like I no part of me would ever recommend anybody play that on a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One.
No.
So, and that was the situation with me. I played it on the PS4. It was unplayable, totally unplayable. And then I got my PS5 and it was really, really bad there too. And but I was able to finish it. It crashed on me probably over a dozen times. Um, and it was a really bad experience. But the core of that game, there was something there. Like there was
Yep.
something you could tell with the characters, you could tell with the choices. The combat was really damn good, a really solid first person combat loop, and just one of the most interesting, unique worlds, especially from a visual standpoint. You know, it was visually just stunning. And then good God, whatever happened with that 2.0 release, they just were cleaning this game up consistently. And I went back to it with Phantom Liberty last year, and I went back to it even before that. And you know, would play 10, 15 hours. And it's just one of those games where like I go off and I'm riding roller coasters and I'm just doing all this silly shit, you know what I mean? Just getting lost in the world. And but then Phantom Liberty comes out, and that's when I really dove back into it last year. And I was just blown away by what they had turned this game into. I mean, they have a full new like upgrade suite in Phantom Liberty where you
Mm.
can turn your damn character into Wolverine. You're jumping from, you know, the first floor of a building to the third floor of a building, just clawing dudes in half with your Manus blades. You got your you can like on the you can ride the motorcycle and then get up on your feet and jump off the motorcycle in midair, like target an enemy, just rip their damn head from their body. You get you get your katana, your blade or whatever, and you can start deflecting bullets back at enemies like your blade. Like they had just created so many systems on top of the base game. And yeah, it is a it's a totally different experience now. It is a totally different experience. And so when I'm saying Cyberpunk 2077 at number 7, I mean like this. I don't know if
Yep.
you can. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
This game or on the Xbox Series X, on the PS5, I mean this version, the full 2.0, everything on the disc, like not, you know, yeah, I'm not at all recommend, or I'm not at all trying to what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not trying to highlight, I'm not trying to downplay the issues that it had at launch. It was horrible. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. But that game, that exact game, that version of the game, the 2.0 with Phantom Liberty and all that, like that is a next level video game. It's so good.
Yep. It was them realizing their potential, but not only that, it really felt like that's what it should have been. That was the original vision. They didn't have enough time, and they needed to just push it out, and they were like, well, we'll just fix it over time. They had the they had the chance to do that now with modern gaming. Because I think they had really bad development woes, if I remember correctly. Like they
Oh yeah.
scrapped a huge amount of the game because they realized that holy shit, we bit off way more than we can chew.
Well, yeah, and a lot of that you kind of see coming back into
Mm.
Phantom Liberty. You know what I mean? A lot of those upgrades, that's somewhere around the realm of what they were shooting for with the base game. And yeah, listen, no doubt. And it's worth reiterating that as much as I love this game, as great as the story is, and uh, I will never go into a CDPR game, The Witcher 1 remake, I will not be buying that day one. I will not be
Oh
buying
damn.
no, no chance. Like, well, let me hold up. Let me backtrack. Once I see like, trusted YouTubers and people who are actually, because I mean, the whole thing, the debacle where you couldn't show your gameplay. Remember with whenever,
Yeah, no, that's an instant red flag. Like whenever anybody does that every single game that does that, you never ever should be buying that day one
no.
if they're blocking it. There's no way. That's them.
Yeah, so like, reviewers weren't allowed to show their gameplay footage whenever they were putting out the review for the game, and this just wasn't. I'm sure it had happened before. I just don't remember it ever happening on this scale with a game this big. And I was just like, this is really, really weird. And so I'm going to be aware of these trends with CDPR moving forward, and hopefully they've learned from their lesson. But yeah, day one when the Witcher 1 remake comes out, I'm for sure going to be holding off until I make sure that thing is polished and cleaned up and not a total disaster. So yeah, they
And
they've
they've
lost my trust, but
yeah,
still great developers.
I think they're also really going to rethink is it worth actually trying to pinch the sales of the last gen if they have to do that kind of thing again? Or do you just take the hit for the first year while people are transitioning over and not get this awful reception?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, definitely. Because like you said, it came out December 2020, so they absolutely could have made this a next gen exclusive at that time, and they probably wouldn't have had, their reputation probably wouldn't have been hit so hard. But once again, to reinforce that point, this version, the 2.0, the version you can buy physically on the PS5 on the Series X, the Series X version is actually better because you have all Phantom Liberty, all that content is on disc. So that version of the game,
Exploded brain, like what?
it's so crazy that they did that. But that version of Cyberpunk is undeniably one of the best games of the generation. Undeniable. I mean, Phantom Liberty alone would probably crack my top 10. I uh yeah, I think it probably would go above RE8. So that DLC, that 15 20, I shouldn't even say just, it's a 15-20 hour DLC with damn Idris Elba as
Yeah,
one of the main characters. I mean, it's crazy. But yeah, I number 7, Cyberpunk 2077.
an incredible pick. Do you know what's really interesting?
What's that?
We're almost halfway through and we haven't picked the same one yet. So it's pretty good. Shows that we have very varied tastes, and that is going to continue with number six,
Okay.
which for me was The Artful Escape.
Okay. I like that game a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I heard what was his name? Yahtzee do a zero punctuation on it, and he didn't. He said he couldn't make it his game of the year because games need to be games and not just, clicking a button kind of thing. Like it needs to have a little bit more substance, but it was so damn hard. Because that's praise coming from me. He's a very cynical reviewer and lots of tongue in cheek, but even he was like, "Look, man, it's really fun, really good." And it is. It's an Annapurna game. They do extremely artistic things, and it was just a really good fun story, fun list. 100% that as well. Really simple, and yeah, I just can't heap enough praise on it. Really fun.
It's one of the most beautiful games
Mm.
I've ever played. Like, as simplistic as it may be, man, that does not at all diminish like the artistic variety within these worlds and the color palettes and just the vibrancy. I mean, it's such a gorgeous, gorgeous game to look at. And Yeah, the
It's
whole
it's their specialty, Annapurna. Like most of their games are absolutely beautiful to look at, really
yeah,
stunning vistas. So
yeah. And the whole musical component and how
mm,
that would tie into the world and just I remember you know you see a slope or whatever and you're sliding down the slope hitting the strings of your guitar, man, it would just yeah, and you could like light up the world with your when you're playing the guitar running through the world and lighting up the
yeah,
world around you, man. It's such a it's a beautiful game. It's so pretty.
yep. And like you said, it may be simplistic, but you know what's important is did you enjoy it?
Yeah,
And from start to finish, I enjoyed it. It
yeah,
didn't have any down points at all. It was just a solid, just up.
yeah. Story's
And
good too.
yeah, really, exactly. You wouldn't think you could have just left it at artistic, but it really does go for the feels and ask questions about stuff
Well,
and go
it's
really deep. And you're like, holy shit.
and it's funny you say that because I just finished playing Sayonara Wild Hearts and
Oh, really good.
yeah, good for sure. But it was the thing where it it's simple as well, but it doesn't have that story component that
Mm,
really like drives home the or makes it doesn't feel as well rounded
no,
as the Artful Escape, in my opinion. And I think that's what's so cool about it. As simplistic as it is on the surface, there is it, it is just a such a well presented package and it comes together and it actually like it has something interesting to say while also just having one of the most beautiful worlds. Yeah, I totally respect that pick. So I'm at number 6.
hmm
So this one for me was really tough to not put higher. We're getting to the point of the list where it's like game of the generation contenders. Um, and I'm still like looking at my 6 and 5 and thinking, should I swap them? I really don't know, but oh, I'm gonna go 6. I'm gonna go Evil West. And oh, it doesn't even feel right saying number 6 for that because I
You are his
think
biggest fan.
I
So
know.
I really enjoyed it. I'm not slating it at all. Really, really
Yeah.
good. But dude, you were there day one, trumpet in that bad boy.
I love it so much. It was my number 3 in my top whatever
Mm,
50 games of 2022. I love this game. And it is how do I put this? It is my favorite combat of the generation. I can't say favorite gameplay because there's multiple, there's variety to gameplay that isn't present here that is in other games that we'll talk about
yeah,
later. But combat, core, moment to moment, punchy, crunchy combat,
yeah,
Evil
really
West is,
visceral. Yeah.
oh my God, it's on a different level, dude. I mean, and I've talked about this one at nauseum as well, so I won't go into it too much, but it is just so, like you said, it's so visceral and the variety that's on offer with the combat, with the third person shooting, with the up close melee and the full upgrade suite that you have, and volleyball spiking enemies into damn, boarded up nails, and the boss fights are so. And that's the thing is Evil West it has a couple difficulty spikes playing on normal, but it's nothing insurmountable. It's
Mhm.
totally it's a throwback to that seventh generation of games where it's like you come home from work and you want to play something, you want to make some progress. You're not, looping back. There's no roguelike mechanics. It's a beginning, a middle, an end. It's gonna take you 8 hours. It feels just like your God of War, but combined like God of War and Gears of War. It's like the perfect
Mm,
cross section between the two, and the third person shooting and the melee. I would take the melee combat in this game over God of War. I would
yep,
take the third person shooting in this game over Gears of War. So it's like
yep.
it's crazy how good this combat system is. And it's like I said, it's throwing back to that era of 7, 8 hour games. And that's why you do have decent production value on this game. You got a good story. It's presented well, but it's not 40 hours long. So
No,
it's
because
not,
it's entirely trimmed all the fat from the
yeah,
modern games, and it is just get to the point. It doesn't. There's
exactly.
no let up of boredom at all because it's just set piece, set piece, set piece, combat, combat, combat. It's
Exactly.
really damn good.
And that's how I would imagine that Flying Wild Hog, that's how I imagine that they avoid this $300 million budget, $200 million budget. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, when you're playing a game that's less than 10 hours long, it's like absolutely, you can get away with having a game that feels similar on a similar scale to something like a God of War, but not having that same budget. So yeah, Evil West, it's just everything that I hope that games kind of evolve into, where we can keep some of that similar uh production value, some of that similar cinematic feel, but maybe not for $300 million, where it makes the industry totally unsustainable.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised it didn't do like better either. Like a lot of people slapped on it. Like it's like at worst, like even if you really, really didn't think it was all that special, like it's still like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like it's just incredible, and like it's full of flair, and just man, they need to make a sequel of it. And you didn't even touch on like the setting of it, like vampires and shit.
Right. Yeah,
Western, like incredibly cool setting.
Red Dead Vampire.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just damn.
straight up,
It
dude.
it
It's
really felt
awesome.
like the what was it? Was it the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah, yeah.
film.
Yep, yeah.
It just gave me vibes of that, and I just loved it.
Very much Van Helsing vibes. Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, dude, like you said, I think the very least someone would look at this and be like, that's a solid 7 out of 10. But to me, man, this is like a this is in the nines to me. I have nothing to complain about with this game. I love it so much.
Awesome, man. I love the passion for
I'll be championing this game until I'm dead, man. People gotta
it.
check out Evo West. And now I think it's on like PlayStation Plus and shit. Dude, it's
Yeah,
so
it's
worth
everywhere like that because it's the perfect game for it.
for sure.
Everyone needs to check it out, man.
No
Right.
doubt.
Number five for me. I I can't pin it down to one title. I'm sorry. Like they've been way, way, way too important. Just and you know, it's the Resident Evil remakes. Like really, really cool. Obviously, I think four just flat out blows it like the other two out of the water. But they all three of them need to be mentioned, even if some were released a little bit before that. They have been crucial to what it means to be a remake. These are not cop out remakes. These are full from the ground up, changing, adding new story beats, overhauling everything. And not only that, tying the entire series together because a lot of the games felt disjointed. I don't know if you felt that when you were playing through them. They didn't feel like the stories were entirely connected. It felt like something was missing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I know 3 gets a lot of hate, but 3 is the best for that, I would say,
Mm.
of tying the story back together. And 3, I would say, was maybe one of the worst originally for being so disjointed. So yeah, I
It's
agree,
the
man.
weakest of the three that have come out, but it's still like an incredible remake.
Yep,
Um, the only knock against it that I will just turn around and say is like it was obviously way too short
for
for
sure.
what they wanted for the price. That is it. But the quality is still there.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, probably the one that trumpets all of them is Resident Evil 4. Like Jesus Christ, I think you and me were hesitant saying that it probably didn't need a remake, and we ate those words
Definitely
real
we
damn
did.
hard. Because it really didn't feel like it. Like it's a game that has been ported to every system imaginable. Resident Evil 4. It had a really good HD remaster that was available on essentially every system as well. But Jesus Christ, every aspect of that game was just kick ass. And the way that they've like drag out the what's the guy's name? The
Oh, Luis.
Louise. I was gonna say
Yeah.
Carlos, but that's the other guy. Giving him a reason to be there
Yep.
instead of just plopping him down and be like, yeah, he's there, he's just doing his own thing. Giving him purpose is really,
Big.
really good.
Yeah, big story moment with him.
Yeah.
Huge story moment. I mean, huge story moments throughout the game with Luis. Yeah, yeah. I mean, all of it. From pretty much every character in this game, their backstory is fleshed out. Mendez, Salazar, all their backstories are fleshed out more in RE4. And yeah, that I guess I'll go ahead and rip the band-aid off. No need to delay the inevitable. It's definitely on my list as well. This is our first crossover here.
Oh,
And
there we go.
I guess I'll go ahead and just shout it out where it would be placed on my list. We never really went over how we were going to do it if we had crossover here. So I guess if we do have crossover, we can just mention it real quick, mention where it's
Mhm.
at on our list and run through it. RE4 is number 3 on my
Oh, I was gonna
list.
predict second.
Yeah,
Damn.
it's number 3 on my list, and I definitely, like I said, with a lot of these games, it's
Bronze for Leon feels bad.
and like you said, it's everything a remake should be. You know what I mean? Totally, totally from the ground up, redesigning this combat system that, when you play the first one, you think that can it get much better than that? But when you play the remake, you're like, oh my God, of course, the knife parry, the moving and shooting,
Yeah,
the moving and
I'm
aiming.
envious. I'm envious of you because you played this years ago at its peak, essentially, I
The
assume.
the original.
Yeah,
Yeah, I played it when it came to PlayStation 2.
yeah. I didn't
Uh,
like. So I'm just thinking like all of the things that they did, like little nods and little tips of the hat and everything, like the helicopter and everything, stuff like that. Something as simple as that, you must have had the biggest grin on your face, like this is it,
yeah.
this is it.
Well, yeah, and I loved RE4. It's my second favorite Resident Evil game. It is now, it was then. Um, Well, the remake has totally like became the definitive version of that game at this point to me now. But
Yeah,
with the original, you have like the boat section where you really don't have full range. You can't really go everywhere. Like in RE4, the remake, you got this open lake and you can go and kind of explore it at your
yeah.
leisure.
They
It's
unshackle
crazy.
you. They unshackle and they completely give you the full potential of what that game could have been. And I
Absolutely.
think that is what you need in a remake, and that's what really, really needs to happen with this Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. I don't want to see this linear corridor crap. Like, expand it,
Yeah.
make it like its full potential.
I I could eat my words again, but I'm not expecting much from that
No,
game
I'm not.
at all. But speaking of Metal
Konami
Gear,
doesn't give much.
yeah, I mean, yeah, just I could, yeah, regardless. Well, we'll see. I don't want to shit on the game before it comes out. That doesn't feel fair. But um, speaking of Metal Gear Solid, the inclusion of stealth into RE4 was pretty wild.
Mm,
Like that kind of became a whole new dynamic where you can strategically plan out, okay, I'm gonna go up behind him, take him out, shoot the next guy, kind of crouch into the next area. If I have some open space, some cover I can get behind, like that, a totally new dynamic as well. Once again, it's just a reinvention of so many great ideas that you could see in the original. I mean, Ashley, you know what I mean? Just her entire presence in this game, in the remake, was so much less of a hindrance to the
yeah.
the progression of yeah, I mean, incredible remake.
And one last little bit of a cherry on top for praise of it is the achievement list is really well done as well for me. And it also does little nods to things that if you knew in the original, like shooting the bell to make them go
Go
earlier,
away.
they're like, ah, we got you guys. There you go. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, oh, just just an incredible remake.
Yeah, that
Can they
opening.
pull it off with five? can they pull off a Resident Evil 5 remake and Resident Evil 6? That's the real question.
That might be a whole nother topic, but I'm curious, do they even go there next?
I think they have to.
You think?
You go all the way to four. You need to get them to polished.
Yeah, because what would have made more sense, honestly, would have been RE2, RE3, then Code Veronica, then 4, if they were going to try to do it in any sort of,
Yeah, I want them to do a Code Veronica thing. It's just I don't see them. Why have we not got a Resident Evil 1 remake either? For Christ's sake, Capcom.
yeah.
Why are you sleeping on that?
So that's actually gonna totally veer off into a different tangent here, but that's kind of what I'm hoping that they do. I'm hoping that they go RE1, Code Veronica, and then that way they can get the tank-based games up to par, you know.
Not
And
Zero?
I don't think they really acknowledge Zero. I
No.
mean, they might. Zero's cool. I like Zero a lot. I think Zero is incredibly, incredibly
I think
underrated.
they could you could probably trim it down though, right? And maybe push it into one. Or maybe even just do it as like a little extended DLC, maybe.
Yeah, you could. Uh, Zero is a
Because what I'm thinking is you remake all these, like remake two, for instance, you have a lot more wider of an area, whereas the mansion in one is fairly small, really, when you compare it to the, Resident Evil 4's environment, two's environment,
oh
maybe
yeah.
bundling them together and squishing it into so that they don't get that bad reception of a, oh, it's another Resident Evil 3, it's really short. Maybe you do
Yeah.
that and like compact it together.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to do like a lead up to RE1 and have like a boiled down story for RE0, there could be some interesting angles to go there. I worry that they want to leave RE0 and Code Veronica behind. That's kind of
Yeah.
my big worry is that they just go to RE1 and then they go to RE5, or that they go to RE5 and then back to RE1. But well, I think we'll get an announcement this year for sure for wherever they're going next. I think they might go RE9 next
Hmm. I'd be
because
surprised.
I mean, if you look at their cadence, they RE7 2017, RE8 2021. So, if we go another now it's 2024, that's kind of lining up for
Yeah.
an announcement this year, release next. But there is rumor that RE5 or RE9 is supposed to be the biggest Resident Evil game ever. So maybe they're going to need more time. But we shall see, man. Um, is it my number five or is it
Yeah, you're number five.
okay, my number five? I am going to go with Starfield.
Oh,
And
Jesus Christ.
I can hear,
Wow.
yeah, so I know people hate this game, and I think it really comes down to one core factor for me. Either, and I've heard people say this, like Bethesda fans hate Starfield and non-Bethesda fans like Starfield. And I think that's kind of what I fall into, where I don't like Bethesda games. I don't like BGS games. And so, like, the sense of wonder and the sense of awe and being out in those worlds and just stumbling and bumbling around and, like, oh, okay, here I'm in this open terrain for thousands of miles and I find this one little thing over here that I'm going to go and explore for 10 minutes and then back on my quest for thousands of miles of openness. Like, I don't like that.
No.
I like I like getting to the good stuff. And I will 100% acknowledge that Starfield, the space exploration is laughable. It is absolutely laughable. But in terms of what I want out of a Bethesda game, what I want out of a video game, if I can condense a game down to make it more linear and get straight to the story, get straight to the stuff I want to get to, then I'm happy. And Starfield, it 100% allows you to do that. Sure, you have to go through these loading screens and all this annoying shit to get there. But when you get to the story, which once again is much more streamlined because of the fast travel, which I
Yep.
know a lot of people hate, but for me, it kind of just lined up to be perfect where I could cut out a lot of the fat, get straight to the story. And once you get to the story, you have a fucking great main quest, no doubt. But four three of the best side quests ever that I have ever played in my life with those faction quests.
Yeah,
And
that was
I
probably the strength of the game for me, with the faction quests, more so than the main, if I'm being honest.
yeah, me too, without a doubt. The faction quests are way better. I mean, the UC Vanguard quest, it's essentially a Dino Crisis with an angle of going in and doing like
Dude, it's
or
just aliens. That's what it
yeah,
felt like. It's just aliens.
it's crazy like actually getting to affect the research and affect like how you're going to deal with this threat on like a
Mm,
scientific level along with the combat that
mm.
they introduce and having a slight horror angle early on and and then going into the Crimson Fleet that was probably my favorite of all of them and it's a hard one not
That was the one I missed.
oh my it's so good dude it's so good
I might have to just bite the bullet and go back and give it a shot because all I did was the story, UC, and then Ryujin, which I really enjoyed.
Ryujin's so sick. It kind of becomes more stealth based, little
Yeah.
dishonored action going on in there. Um, yeah, but the Crimson Fleet, dude, I won't spoil it, since I really recommend checking it out. But what I will say is the intimacy in that quest is wild. I'll just say that. Like from the build up to the finale is wild. The spin of events and what ends up happening or what can end up happening. You get to choose. Um, yeah, so I'll just leave it there. But even, all four of those quests are really, really solid, and the Ryujin one, when it gets to its finale, you finish that one, right?
Yeah.
That finale is so sick to me, where I'm in the boardroom meeting and I'm manipulating people with my mind control device. Like it's so sick, dude, so sick. And I haven't. I began my new game plus, but I haven't, finished it. I've heard that is like beyond insane.
Yeah,
Where
no, there's so many layers to it because I think it also has an element of randomness as to what happens.
yes, that's what I've heard.
Because I went through and I was like, look, man, I'm not going to beat this game like 10 times. I was like, what are the things? And some of them are crazy. Have you looked through what some of the things are?
Yes, and I don't want to spoil it, but like the one that I heard that was insane was I light spoilers. I'll throw in a timestamp, but like about like battling yourself. Did you see that one,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
dude?
Mine was the thing that pops to mind was a comedic one where it turns. You're gonna put. Can you put like
Yeah.
spoiler time?
Yeah.
The one of the members of the Starfield thing turns into a plant. And
No.
yeah, and you go there. You go when you meet them for the first time. It's just there and it's named that plant, and it's just like, what? Okay, that's really bizarre, but like that's so funny. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Reincarnated into a damn plant. That is hilarious, man. Yeah, I heard that you can go through it and like for certain quests it'll be different members of your crew who end up
Yeah,
dying in like pivotal missions and stuff.
yeah.
That's really, really cool too, because I would wonder how the story would change when you're interacting with different people after that one big mission where somebody does have to die in that mission. I wonder if if it is different people. Yeah, there's just a lot in the infinite loop of
Mm.
Starfield that is really, really compelling to me. So I will at some point, but it's the thing is, and I've heard that you can New Game Plus it and run through it in like 3 hours. So
Yeah, because you have the thing where you know what you need to do
yeah, and I think
and
you can
stuff.
skip a lot of the stuff
Yeah.
because I don't think you have to go and get all the little, different fucking whatever the hell they are. When you're in the temple and you gotta
Mm.
float up to the little orb. I don't
That
think
that
you.
was atrocious. I don't know what the hell they were thinking for that. Like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, that
Jesus
was
Christ.
one of the dumbest little puzzles I've ever played in a game. But I don't know, man. I understand Starfield has some weaknesses for sure, without a doubt. But as a non-BGS fan, well, let me be clear. I like Fallout 3, I like New Vegas, but that's really it. I just can't get into their games. And for this to be much more streamlined, which is so funny to say, a game about an entire galaxy is the streamlined BGS game.
Yeah.
It's wild. And then that's not even to talk about the ship customization and the base building and then how people I've seen people that have full on like civilization style shit going on where they're building up these cities and creating infrastructure and jobs and this and that's like what the hell? But I don't really do all that stuff.
The the thing is, because what I was gonna say is with the infinite time loop and it essentially never end. It's like a tongue in cheek of them being self-aware by like knowing that Skyrim just won't die.
Yeah.
Fallout 4 won't die. So we'll just make this canon that this game also won't die. And once it gets mod support, it won't die.
Yeah.
It that is it. You just set that game up for life as well. And
Right.
that is, I think maybe I'm wrong. It feels like a little bit of the systems are a little bit underbaked and maybe empty to leave room for modders to grow that space themselves.
Yeah.
They haven't had to try as much because they know that, well, we don't need to try. The community will carry the heavy load for us when we're done. We'll make the story and the backbone, and then they can make the rest, as they always do.
Which I that's the part where I do kind of feel like it's a little bit disrespectful. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where it's
And
like,
they're the only studio that gets away with this crap
yeah,
in that mindset.
yeah. Which I guess you could say this is the kind of the game that changes that because boy, oh boy, the reception to Starfield has been. I know like I said, every time I talk about the game, I feel like I have to give this, preface of listen, I
Don't
understand
kill
that
me.
right, and it's crazy because like people in my comment section are generally 99% of them are pretty kind and just they tune into it. But most people who watch any sort of content don't comment about anything. Like I don't ever comment, when I'm just watching random people, I don't ever comment. Like it's just most people just watch, tune in, go about their day. But man, something about Starfield, like bringing up that name, bringing up Starfield and talking positively about it, I feel like that is where I've received maybe the most criticism
Mm.
of any kind of content I've ever made.
It the thing is I've had the opinion of them like that for a very long time. I felt like they've disrespected their player bit because I didn't. I enjoyed Skyrim, but I never thought it was like that level of special because I'd played other RPGs that completely blow it out of the water, that have much better combat systems, that do
Yeah.
much better RPG mechanics. But it seems like it was a lot of people's first step into an RPG, so it blew them away. And it gave them that's why they gave it such a free pass. And then with the Fallout 4, it was the first that they experienced of that. And then now that they got 76, they're like, hold on, I've played these other games and these are a hell of a lot better than this crap. And
Yeah.
then they get given Starfield and like, Jesus Christ, this could be a lot better.
But the thing about it is like because I think that this is the best BGS combat loop ever,
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah. No, I don't think anybody could dispute that.
And it's like, I don't know, it just feels like they bit off more than they could chew. And a part of me sympathizes with that, and a part of me kind of goes, well, dude, you got the biggest, publisher in the world behind you, the biggest, literally the biggest corporation in America funding it.
Mm,
And not the biggest corporation in America, the biggest corporation in existence, if I'm not mistaken, is Microsoft. And it's like
yep.
you don't get as much slack as uh, indie game company A, indie game company B. It's a different level of expectation, and I understand that. But I do wish people I wish people had the experience that I had, and I wish that I could kind of relate to, or I wish more people could relate to the experience I had with those faction quests, with the main story. And I think it's so easy in a game like that to just get lost in the amount of nothing that is there because there is
Yep.
galaxies of nothing in this game. But if you do cut out that and you just kind of go tunnel vision. But that's the thing, is that a lot of people, most people do not want to play a Bethesda game like that, a BGS game like that. They want the sense of wonder, the exploration. And it, once again, I feel like I'm going in circles here, but that is what I don't want. So being able to cut that in
It
Starfield,
was just perfect for you.
yeah,
It tickled what you needed, but pissed
all
off a lot what what other people wanted.
and I totally do get that. I totally do get that. But all pun intended, the stars just aligned for me in all Starfield here. So that's gonna be my number five, man. I'm gonna jump out of this one before I get beat up in the comments.
Right, well, moving on to number four for me, it would be a recent release of this year,
Ooh.
and it is a related to what you said earlier with like a not like a dragon. That's what this is. Lost Judgment. It's like a dragon, infinite wealth for me. Really, really damn good. Like really, really, really crazy good of how they've managed to go from making the best brawling system that I've played that I enjoy. Like I know like Sleeping Dogs is a little bit more kinetic and stuff in the way that it's like an Arkham style thing, but something just clicks with like the standard Yakuza combat
Well, they're totally different. You know, like I
is
think what you said, it's a brawler. Those Yakuza
yeah,
games are straight up brawlers. Yeah.
yeah. And it just when they turned around and was like, because it was initially like an April Fool's, that first Like a Dragon thing. They're like, could you imagine if we made a turn-based game, guys? And everyone was like, do it. And they were like, oh, you guys actually wanted it. Interesting. And they made it, and it was really damn good. And then with this, every single aspect that was just like, that needs a little bit of refinement. It's not quite there. They got it. They got it and they killed it. And it's a Yakuza game, so you know that the mini games are going to be abundant and they're going to be really damn fun. The settings are going to be awesome, and the characters are just going to be crazy. And that is it. It's just the story from start to finish, crazy. A little bit of a letdown with the ending, but it just feels more like a sequel hook than anything, which that's fine. But the amount they packed into the game, like you were talking about, it's crazy that they made a boxing game in Lost Judgment. Dude, they got Animal Crossing in Like a Dragon. Like Christ Almighty,
It's insane, man.
and they got Pokemon on top of that in there. They got all the Nintendo properties. Power World was getting flamed for being a clone of it, and RGG are over here like, yeah, bitch, you won't come after us. You know not to. Showed them their dragon tattoo on their back, and they was like, you don't
Uh,
mess with us. Man, just what? And I really thought I was gonna get sucked into Persona 3 Remake, probably more, and I just haven't.
oh
Like
wow.
it, it took the wind out of what I need. Like I didn't need another JRPG for a while now. Like I started playing Persona 3 Real, and I was like, it's not like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
That's crazy. Okay. So do you think it has something to do with the turn-based combat system feeling more engaging and
No, no, no. I think for me, because I really enjoyed the original Persona 3. I think they stupidly released them within a week of each other.
right.
That's the major drawback. If this,
Wait, that was
yeah,
Sega, right? Released
yeah,
both.
that's exactly. This is what I'm saying, and that's what I was trumping. I was like, what is wrong with them?
What
And what
the
is wrong? Because I
hell?
said that Sega did that, and then Sony did it with the Foam Stars and the Helldivers thing. Like, what is
Right.
going on with this? Why are you doing this EA crap? Like what they
Right.
did with Titanfall and one of the Battlefield games. Like, why are
Yeah.
you cannibalizing your own product? You can give it like 4 months of breathing room, and both of them would have been successful.
Wow. Yeah, for
I
some
think
reason I didn't even
they just didn't. They knew that Persona 3 is on Game Pass, so if someone wants to check it out, they'll check it out through Game Pass. They already got the guarantee check for that, and they were like, "Look, we know the Yakuza game's gonna sell boatloads, and it did. I think it's the best-selling game in the series, and rightfully
Jesus.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's damn man. So you put what, you put about 40 hours or so into.
Oh, I don't know. Give me one moment.
No, you're good. Because it was
Oh,
like,
still.
no, I got you. That's the thing that is so intimidating about those games. Because I know that I've been told you can breeze through a lot of them in like 15 hours or so. And you even said that earlier, 15, 20.
You in the standard Yakuza get for Infinite Wealth, it took me 55 hours and 7 minutes to get through to see the end.
And you probably still got a lot of, there's probably still a lot of side content there.
I'm gonna be 100% honest. I dipped into the Pokemon thing for like 20 minutes, and it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I knew that Persona 3 was on the thing.
Right.
Like my whole goal was to get through this so that I could play Persona 3 at launch. So they're estimating that 100% completion for it is 120 hours. So I still have like 60 hours
That ain't that bad.
worth of side quests and stuff.
Are you going to go for the 100 on that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So that's your number four.
Yep.
Okay. So staying with that was Game Pass day one?
What, like a Dragon Infinite Wealth?
Yeah.
No,
Okay. Okay.
I don't believe so. I think that surprisingly wasn't because they'd done every other Yakuza
That's what I was
Game
thinking.
Pass. I think they knew that it was special. Like I said, it became the biggest selling thing, and they were like, "Look, you already have Persona 3. Let us
Yeah.
just get the full paycheck for this. We have confidence in it."
It'll probably be on there at some point this year, I would imagine, with
Yeah,
the rest of
probably
the
be like a
games.
December Game Awards surprise. Here you go, guys.
Right. So number four, I uh I was gonna make a Game Pass transition because my number four is on Game Pass, but I got or it was on Game Pass. I think it still is. Plague Tale Requiem. And talked about this one at nauseum as well. So I'll be brief. I'll make out a bold claim just out the gate here. Best story of the generation, I think.
Ooh,
I think it's the best story I've played so far this generation. And
hot damn.
uh, I'll throw out another one. Maybe the best maybe the best performance of all time with Charlotte McBurney as Amicia. I think her performance here is just it's on a different level, man. And obviously you got to play Innocence before playing Requiem. It's, kind of must. It's a must to play the first one before jumping into Requiem. But it is this incredible culmination of you're seeing this sister who is way too young to be taking care of this little brother in the first game, and no need for spoilers, but due to some events that take place in Innocence, she has to take care of her little brother Hugo.
Yep.
And her taking on this parental role at whatever 17 years old or something, and not at all being capable for that job in Innocence, but slowly through like this just brutal journey that she goes on in Innocence, being molded by that into Requiem, where she is very much capable. It turns, in the first game, it's nothing but stealth. In Requiem, she, has her bow and arrow. It turns into some, third
Yeah, she
person.
starts going toe to toe with like cutthroat bandits. It gets
Yeah,
really, really dark.
yeah, absolutely. And she's killing motherfuckers just like
Mm.
left, right, and center. And you see the slow, you see that slowly taking hold of her psyche, and she's kind of losing grasp with reality. And it's a wild journey because this innocent girl, played till innocence, and then her transformation into Requiem of losing herself. That's really what this entire game is about in a lot of ways. Obviously, it is still Hugo is like at the core of everything, but Amicia is losing herself throughout this entire game, and experiencing this journey with her is it is really, really wild, and how it ties that story thread into the gameplay by fleshing out combat so much more and making her feel more like a capable individual in battle, and just a great tie there to the story. My favorite ending of the generation so far, one of the very few games that got a tear out of me this generation. Man, I bawled like a baby at the end of a Plato Requiem. It's a gut-wrenching tale, and it is a also, in terms of systems, they have my favorite upgrading system. When it's done right, it's my favorite upgrading system, and it's an incredibly difficult technical achievement where they have it to where whatever you're doing in the game, it's naturally upgrading Amicia. So
Yeah, that was really, really interesting. I forgot that they did that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that is something that, you see with like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas in a much more fleshed out manner, but you never saw it again in Grand Theft Auto because I imagine that system to all those domino effects, I imagine it is impossible to really manage that properly. And it's a much more slimmed down version in Requiem, but it's really, really impressive that what you do in game directly upgrades Amicia without you having to go in and meticulously, pick out what you want. It's going to reflect how you play the game. And that just, once again,
Yeah.
it ties straight into the story. She's becoming more of a killer, and how you go about doing that is how she's going to, progress. And it, everything blends so well. And also one of the most beautiful games of the generation. Incredible motion capture, incredible everything. It is fantastic. It's not top tier combat. I won't lie and say that. You're playing it for the story, but the
hmm
combat's pretty damn good. Pretty damn
No,
good.
it's an incredible step up from the first game as well.
Totally. Yeah,
Massive
absolutely.
upgrade.
And I mean, talking about games that look like $200 million blockbusters, but
Hmm.
probably not costing, probably not even half of that. Just really, really remarkable work from Asobo or Sobi. No, Asobo. Asobi is the Astro team, I think. So that's my number four, man.
Right. Moving in to gold, silver, and bronze. We're
Oh
into that
boy.
territory now.
I already spoiled my bronze, but
Yeah. Well, the bronze for me, and yeah, it definitely deserves bronze from the comparison to these other two. I'm sorry, but Lies of P, really, really, really damn good. Souls like that. I wasn't expecting to enjoy as much as I did. It was my second pick as the what I wanted to play last year because I really thought that Lords of the Fallen recrack it would have been better, and it just didn't do anything for me. And I picked up Lies of P, and I was like, go on then, I'll have a crack at this. And it's just sometimes keeping it simple is the best way to go. Like, stop overthinking things. Like, you don't need to do this whole it has a second world and like they did in Lords of the Fallen, this whole lamp crap system. It just unnecessary, gets in the way of the enjoyment. And Lies of P, really, really damn enjoyable. And everything that they decided to add didn't intrude on the game. It just expanded. It just made it better. It made it more enjoyable. You had the whole wrist gadget system where you're able to do these tons of different upgrades that you could choose from, which influence your playstyle. So you could be more aggressive, be more defensive, and stuff like that. And it never got in the way. You don't even have to interact with that if you don't want to. That's the beautiful part about it. It's not like the Lords of the Fallen lamp system where you have to interact with this mechanic. It just the boss fights as well. Really, really fun. Really good if you're not really into Souls likes either, because every single main like major boss, you have an NPC summon that's available to you. So it makes it more manageable and easier to digest. So that's also a positive for those that don't want to fully challenge themselves and
and
throw
I
controllers at walls.
No, yeah. Can I ask you the lying system? What
Mhm.
exactly is that? How does that exactly play out into the story? Because I remember being compelled by that. Like, supposedly you get to make decisions.
Um, so that will influence the ending as to what you
Oh,
get. Um, you're a puppet. Puppets can't lie because they're not human. You're different. You're able to lie. So you get presented these choices. You have like ones that you have to choose, and then sometimes you get side quests which you could completely miss, but they also can do it. And depending on whether or not because you could either just be cold and honest, and that's technically what a puppet would do. Because a lot of this stuff is people they can't grasp what's actually happened. They're lying to themselves. The actual world is lying as to what's happened because it's so painful to accept it. So you can either kind of comfort them and lie with them because that's more of a human thing to do. It's empathy. Or you can just be the cold robot and be like, no, accept what has happened and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it just clicked to me. It was the perfect blend of like it's Bloodborne-esque,
oh yeah.
really aggressive combat, even sprinkles in that kind of cosmic horror as well. So yeah, one I'm currently trying 100% and it's kicking my ass, but yeah, I'll get it done.
Dude, the ending, I guess I haven't played it, but I heard about
You've
the
seen it
ending.
though, right? Or have you just heard about it? Did you see the cutscene?
I didn't see the cutscene, but I heard about it on a podcast. Dude, it sounds so sick.
It's just the stepping stone. That's the beautiful thing of it. They've opened up a whole world of
Literally.
possibility.
Literally. Yeah, that is crazy, that ending, man. That the ending alone made me want to play the game. I just wish you could pause the damn thing. But
Yeah, and I'll definitely knock it for that
yeah.
because stuff like Sekiro, which is a FromSoft game, because people we would always say, "Oh, you can't pause in a FromSoft like Souls game." Sekiro, you can pause.
Oh,
Doesn't have
can
any
you?
multiplayer. Yeah, in Sekiro, you can pause.
Well, maybe that'll be the one that I really dive into and try to.
That will probably kick your ass the most, but yeah.
Yeah. See, but
But
that's the thing about it. Like Sekiro, from what I've heard, sounds more directly skill based than any of the other games, where you're not
yeah,
really upgrading and stuff. So you have like this one kind of, sword or one whatever katana. I
yep.
don't know what you're using.
The the way I would explain it is it's a Souls fan's worst like enemy because when you play a Souls game, you're conditioned that if you hit a brick wall, you can either go somewhere else or you can change your loadout and try and tackle. You can't in Sekiro, you master that combat system,
And I love that.
and I don't.
Oh, okay.
I
But
couldn't click with Sekiro because it was just like, man, this just it's not my play style. It's
yeah,
not the way I play Souls games. And I
right.
can't get that. I've been conditioned. It's locked into my brain. And yeah, I will go back and give it a crack and really try and master the combat. But yeah, I'd say it's the one I enjoyed the least.
Yeah, because to me, like it sounds more like an action game. Like it just,
It's more akin to Devil May Cry than it is a Souls-like.
and that's my lane. I love character action games, and the the pause feature is a huge, just being able to pause it because like I've told you before, I answer calls a lot for work, and I have to be able to pause to really, and like I don't really I shouldn't say I don't struggle, but hard games in and of themselves isn't the issue. Like I said, Sifu and Hades, like I can play. I have, if I am willing to commit to beating my head against a wall for a little bit, I can get through a hard game. It's just I'm rarely in the mood to do it, and I'm never in the mood to do it if I can't pause it.
No,
And
that's
it's,
fair.
yeah, not even in the mood. It's just I literally can't because it's like pointless because if I can't pause it, I'll end up dying answering a phone call, whatever.
Yeah,
And it's
you'll
like,
only lose all your currency. Don't worry about it.
right, exactly. But yeah, dude, Lies of P, that ending is so. I I just hearing about it, I was like, that is so freaking cool. So cool. So for anybody out there, any Souls fans out there who haven't played it, I I can't recommend it because I haven't played it either, but I can definitely recommend that
I
ending.
can absolutely recommend it. Oh, and the music. Ho, ho, ho. I'm a big music buff. Like, I have like playlists made on my channel. Whenever a piece of music resonates with me, like for instance, the Ashtray Maze in Control, pluck that song, put it in there. Gotta save that. There are so many records in Lies of P because that is also how you raise, like, how you can change the ending is the humanity by listening to music, and all of that music is stellar.
Damn.
So, really, just more praise to put on. Right,
All
you're
right,
number
dude.
three before I talk your ear off about Lies of P.
Well, I'm actually gonna skip ahead because I did my number three
Oh, yeah,
earlier
yeah,
with
yeah.
RE4. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
plug it.
jump into number two real quick. Um, and then that would bounce you back to number two after, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so we're still on track. Um, Horizon Forbidden West is my number two. And it's so weird because we talk about this generation being this hybrid generation of sorts, and Horizon somehow is on PlayStation 4. It's I don't get it. I don't
They
know.
ripped the Band-Aid off though, because the DLC is only PS5, right?
Yeah.
Which
And
annoyed a lot of people.
too bad, man, because boy, that DLC has some tech going
Mm,
on. You have a Shadow of the Colossus S fight in that DLC towards the end, which is like on a technical level, just stunning, dude. And then, flying through the clouds and seeing the Hollywood sign and the lava flowing. I mean, it's just beautiful, beautiful. It's that's the thing about Horizon that's so weird is even though it is a cross-generation game, it is the most beautiful game of the generation. So it's like I don't even know. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's the most technically impressive game of this generation so far that I've played, and it's on the last generation. So it kind of just throws out the idea altogether that like, that you have to be exclusive, next gen exclusive to be really pushing what this system can do, what this new advanced leap in technology can do. And man, from for one, the side quests in Horizon Forbidden West are so much more fleshed out than like 99% of side quests in any game ever. The fact that like every single character, even small characters, they're well voiced, they're like the character models, facial animation, all that shit is well done for even characters that you just meet for a little bit in the game. You know what I mean? And it, I think that when Zero Dawn, I like the story in Horizon Zero Dawn more, but literally everything else about Forbidden West, I would take over it. It has like an Uncharted-esque platforming climbing system, and you couldn't climb at all in Zero Dawn, which was just baffling after Tears of the Kingdom came out and just it's like, oh my God, you can go anywhere, climb it. And then for that not to be available in Zero Dawn, I know a lot of people were put off by that. And now
mm.
they implemented in this like very cinematic climbing platforming system that feels akin to Uncharted. The melee combat in Zero Dawn was almost non-existent, and now it's a totally viable way to play. And the variety of combat in Horizon in general, I think, is pretty underrated. Having these different, the trip casters and the different, traps that you can set up and the grenades, and then or not grenades, but the little slingshot bombs. And you are going out and you're scouting your enemies and you're finding their weak points and you're trying to like strategically position yourself in the world. Like if okay, enemy has a weak point on their back, and I can strategically like position myself to the top of this mountain and just rain down shots on their weak point. And then I actually get my upgrades by going and collecting those parts and then taking them and then upgrading my arsenal. It's like they really do have a very, very satisfying gameplay loop. Taking the spear, the javelin, and stabbing it into the different robo dinos. The world is so damn cool. The twist in Forbidden West, not to spoil anything, but it's going to be really interesting to see Horizon 3 because it's not at all going to be anything like Zero Dawn or Forbidden West. It won't even be a similar setting. It won't even be the same genre. of game. So it's going to be
That's
really,
interesting.
yeah, it's, or I should say it'll be, a third person action adventure game, obviously, but I,
I was hoping for a dancing game.
I, I don't want to spoil anything, but the world will not 100%. I can almost guarantee, maybe they'll find some way to have a similar looking world, but I can almost guarantee the world is going to look nothing like Forbidden West or Zero Dawn.
Man, that's crazy. I played through the first game to its end, didn't do the DLC for the first game, and haven't played Forbidden West yet. So hearing this much praise, I might have to just dust the PlayStation off and give it another go.
What did you think about Zero Dawn?
Um, I didn't think it was like special. It didn't. It felt. It was an okay. I think like a seven from me probably. Like it was good, but I didn't see what all the hype was about. So if it at least builds on that, then I'd
The
probably be more impressed.
yeah, Zero
It's just the
Dawn,
traversal, like you said, it's just lacking.
yeah. It was weird because Zero Dawn, like, technically was really impressive, but it kind of did feel outdated even for when it released, in terms of traversal, in terms of being much more strict with the combat. It didn't feel as open and varied as Forbidden West does. So yeah, I mean, I think Forbidden West is much, much better. And I mean, for the story alone, I would I like I said, I like the story more in Zero Dawn, but I would recommend seeing how weird it gets. Even if you bump the difficulty down to easy or whatever, and just to see how weird the story gets, I would recommend it because it is really, really bizarre. And if you like those characters at all, which I fucking love Aloy. I think Aloy rules.
Oh
Really?
man, I there's something about characters that don't stop talking to themselves that really irritate me.
I get you.
Like I know that's really like a divided take because some people enjoy that. It's why I didn't get on with like or quippiness. I would much prefer like an Arthur Morgan where he just shuts up,
Yeah.
deliver the stuff in cutscenes, and just let me absorb the world when I'm exploring it. I don't need you huffing and puffing and going, "We need to go over here." I need
Yeah.
to. It's just like, no, just shut up, please.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I
That
hear
that
you.
detracts for me. Um, so I will flat out say, yeah, she's not that impressive of a character for me, but maybe she grows in that second game.
Yeah. I know a lot of people don't like Aloy. I thought Aloy was dope. I thought Silence was dope. I like the whole cast of characters. But like I said, I like the Robo Dinos. I like all that, but
Mm.
I think that how should I you know what, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it. Well, I'll say this. I'll say this. I think people are going to be shocked by how sci-fi e the next game becomes, which there's already a tinge of sci-fi, but yeah.
It can
People
pick up where Elix left off. There you go.
But yeah, man, Forbidden West is it's gonna be number two for me.
Well, talking about people that don't say anything, and that's why I love them so much, is a game where your character doesn't talk, just shuts the hell up and does nothing but combat, and that's Elden Ring for me. And I don't even think I need to say anything about the game, to be honest. It's just incredible all around. Like I was very skeptical when they turned around and was like, it's going to be an open world Souls game because what they've done so well in their original identity was the fact that a lot of it is you go through this area and it blows your mind that you've opened this door. Holy shit, that's going to save me 30 minutes. I don't need to do all that hard stuff. I can just get straight to the boss. And so it mildly lost that in certain places, but in areas they still implemented that. But what it really nailed home, which it also did in the original games to a lesser extent, is if you see something in the distance, something massive, and it catches your eye, you can go there.
Yeah.
And that is the exact same with Elden Ring. Every single thing that you're looking on the horizon, and you're like, wow, that looks like a really cool thing. 10 hours from now, you're going to be climbing that thing and you'll be at the top of that thing and you'll be like, there's an even cooler thing down there. And it just that really resonates with me, that kind of exploration. And the combat was incredible. Really, really solid combat. Something as stupid, this is going to say, just adding a jump button. A dedicated jump button was a game changer for that game.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. The mount as well. The mount combat was fun. Just
Yeah.
can't wait for that DLC. Really
That
can't wait for that DLC.
when is that? May?
June, I believe.
June. Okay. So a little bit of time, but not long, man. Not long, and you'll be back with Shadows of the Erdtree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, dude. I remember, once again, not my genre, but when I heard about like the underworld or whatever, where it's like it
Yes.
kind of like layers into a whole different
Holy
game.
crap. We were, because I played through the entire game basically co-op with friends,
Oh, okay.
and we were like, holy shit. You went down there, and it wasn't even like, it was a long ass elevator. You're like going, it feels like you're into the core of this planet.
Yeah.
And it goes from one entirely really cool forest to a completely new like biome, and you're like, Jesus Christ, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so, man, it's so they I think that they've kind of established themselves from Soft as like they're this might sound crazy, but I really think that they have kind of established themselves as like Nintendo Rockstar from Soft,
Yeah.
in terms of all-time greats, really. It's crazy, but people don't understand they've been around for a
I
while.
don't think it's crazy at all, because this is a team that obviously they didn't start with Dark Souls and stuff.
No.
They've worked on Armored Core. Even
Tenchu,
further back from that, you had the the remnants of what they kind of, the what's the word I'm looking for here?
like
The
the
fault of the idea and fault of the Dark Souls, which was Kingsfield,
yeah,
is what he made. And even then, it was a brutal game and had a lot of shortcomings, but it even then was pushing boundaries back then and had extremely interesting ideas.
yeah,
And then them getting the ability to make Demon Souls really, really unshackled them. And they were like, "Look, man, we're gonna do this, and we don't care about what the reception will be. It's what I want to make." And it didn't land very well, and they were lucky that they got, because it was a gem on PS3, but hardly anybody touched it. It wasn't until Dark Souls came out on both platforms, but the thing that really propelled it was the fact that it was one of the very early games with gold titles for Xbox 360.
hmm,
So you gave it to an instant audience of over 100,000 people, constantly downloading it and spreading it through word, and it just spread like wildfire. Thousands more, thousands more, thousands, and they're like, "Holy crap! It's free. You don't need to, there's no buy entry. You're paying for your subscription every month."
yeah.
And it just exploded. It just exploded.
I was thinking about this, which I guess people would say Dark Souls 2 was a little bit of a letdown from one. I've heard that in the community. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if you feel that way.
I do not enjoy that game, but
Yeah.
in the defense of it, it wasn't made by the guy who made everything else. That was
Mm.
essentially a beat, because he was making Bloodborne at the time. This was
Me,
a team in FromSoft that were like, okay, we'll pick it up. And don't get me wrong, there are aspects where they did interesting ideas in Dark Souls 2, but it just wasn't it.
yeah. I worry a little bit about like, and we can jump off this, but I worry a little bit. I heard about the mobile game and the TV show for Elden Ring, and it's like, oh boy, are they just going to become the Elden Ring studio? Because I mean, when you have that level
Um,
of success, which I mean, I guess to directly counter the direct counterpoint is they put out fucking Armored Core 6 last year, so I mean, they can kind of do
I mean,
whatever they
they can do
want.
what they can do whatever the hell that they want.
Yeah.
To maybe put the fire at ease for you is that this isn't the first time they've done extended media with stuff. Like, you have Bloodborne comics and Dark Souls comics that they printed and stuff like that. So that it's not a new territory for them to step into. But they're definitely like Miyazaki is a very driven guy. Like if he feels like he's done with something, he's done with it. Like
Yeah.
you think of how successful Bloodborne is. Sony would have been chomping at him to be like, look, get us a sequel to this, get us Bloodborne 2, and you could just keep making Bloodborne. And he's like, I told the story. I'm
I'm
fine.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I guess they value that relationship a lot with FromSoft, Sony. I'm really surprised they didn't just put Blue Point on it. Like, fucking, you're gonna get crazy, crazy buy-in, crazy sales, but I guess they value that relationship with FromSoft a lot, and they don't want to do anything that would.
There's no way you tarnish your relationship with somebody like Miyazaki. He doesn't get as much of a spotlight as something like a Hideo Kojima, but boy, he's got just as much pedigree, man. Like, I'm sorry, like you're talking, like I know Hideo did incredible work with the original Metal Gears, like predicting stuff and all this, but you're talking about a man who he's made his own genre. It is his own type of genre that has become, synonymously just accepted that it is a thing. Like people tried to dismiss it. It is. It's Souls-like is now a genre.
Yeah. Well, you look at Miyamoto, Kojima, Miyazaki, and it's funny that like they all are kind of the king of their own lane, you know what I mean? And they stay in it pretty well, which is really interesting because a lot of the time when you get to that icon level status, you start being, which I guess you could say with Kojima, Death Stranding was a bit more experimental, a lot
Yeah.
experimental, but it was still the core of what Kojima is the king of is like these thrilling narratives that are, you know, prophetic in some way. And maybe a little bit overblown with some of
Well, look
the
how long the ladder sequence was in one of the Metal Gear games. We should have known what to expect.
dude.
He's
But yeah,
happy to waste our time, and we're happy for him to do that.
yeah, he's a prophet. He's a prophet. We knew he knew ladders were going to get longer. Uh, but no, with Miyazaki, he is a gameplay first auteur. Like that's his MO. You know what I mean? That's his main mission objective is to create these worlds that are interesting, but really, really to give you a gameplay driven experience. And everything else is like ancillary, supplementary to the core gameplay experience. And then Miyamoto obviously more of a family friendly, and then Kojima more of a narrative guy. So it's like they've all found their distinct lane, and I really would say that Nintendo Rockstar FromSoft. Like I think if you had to, you know, the like if you did the Mount Rushmore for four, you know what I mean, four developers, I think it would probably, which Nintendo is hard to really call a developer, but I guess a maker of games, I would,
They're the literal the base of the mountain,
yeah, they
keeping
are
everybody up.
games. Yeah. So it's just it's interesting that in 2009 I think was Demon Souls when it released, and
Yeah.
just in that short time period, like Mount Rushmore level fucking developers. Which I know that they, like we said, they've made games before that, but when they really started to cement themselves as like GOAT status.
Yeah, and people knew that it was special when Dark Souls come out. And like I said, I think because of the games with Goldfin, getting it
Yeah.
into and that was, I think this may sound silly as well. I think that's when Xbox finally knew that like subscription was the future.
Hmm.
How something like this you can just drop into a service a few months down after its initial release, giving it to people for free, and it just explode and take
Yeah.
over the internet. And just seeing the power of that, and they were like, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so that was your number two, correct?
Yeah.
Ooh, really curious. I honestly I was predicting that to be number one. Very, very
Mm-mm.
curious to see where you go. No, so I'll go my number one, then you go yours, correct?
Yeah, you can go. Yeah.
Okay. My number one, my game of the generation is Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Knew
And
it.
did you?
Yeah,
It's
knew it.
interesting because, like, for one, obviously it had technical issues at launch, specifically on PC, and I totally understand PC players being really frustrated and down on the
Hey, on it
experience.
and on Xbox. It was
Oh, was it real
woeful on
bad?
Xbox as well. I haven't gone back and finished it. That's
Oh,
why it's not on
wow.
my list.
Okay.
Its performance issues were awful.
See, I really had none of, I mean, it was, 30 frames per second, which some people are just immediately like a no-go on that. But I don't know. I don't really mind 30 frames per second all that
No, I would have
much.
been happy with 30 frames per second because that was obviously what Starfield was. But no, it was
Yeah.
like stuttering constantly, crashing, and yeah.
That's so funny because, like, I had a video where I just ran like 20 minutes straight of gameplay where I was doing my first impressions of it. And it was like, day one gameplay. And you can go and look at it on the channel. It's like the game's running just fine. And I don't, I, that's the tough thing with all of these experiences is they are so dependent upon these individual circumstances, and you can't really predict, who's going to have what bug and who's going to have what
Yeah,
performance issue. And it's,
no, exactly.
but it's like, man, the experience I had, dude, hokey smokes, my favorite Star Wars narrative in over a decade. My favorite new Star Wars character with Cal Kestis, Bode absolutely rules. Just the relationship kind of blossoming there, and then you just have so many. You have so many. The end of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. You have so many moments that just pop out in my head as like, holy shit, moment of the generation, contenders, and they're constantly taking place at the end of that game. The final, like, really hour and a half stretch of that game is just remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And I think that this is everything a sequel should be. Performance issues aside,
Mm.
this is everything a sequel should be. You're talking about Jedi Fallen Order, EA. I mean, for one, Respawn is responsible for the turnaround that we're seeing with EA right now. They're
Yep.
like 100%
Single-handedly, they held them together in the
and
public eye.
yeah, and they got that new damn Mandalorian game coming out. Respawn is developing that first person Mandalorian game.
Can't wait.
Dude, I mean, so they are really single-handedly turning EA back into a main powerhouse single player publisher. And we need more powerhouse single player publishers, AAA, companies who can fund 100 million, $200 million games. And so for that alone, always Fallen Order will always get my respect. But when you look at that game compared to Survivor, it is night and day. The map system, the linearity of Fallen Order compared to this expansive, kind of open world at times Metroidvania that you get with Survivor, and how the powers kind of loop back into the traversal. Just the traversal in general feels so goddamn good in Jedi Survivor. The wall running and then pulling the rope to you, force pulling the rope to you, swinging, and there's I the coolest thing once again about being a sequel to a game where you went through, you upgraded, you got your different powers, that carries over into Jedi Fallen Order. And then all you're doing from that point on is you have your skill set that you acquired in the first game. You're building on top of that
Yep.
with Jedi Survivor. And so now you're getting, force, you're force pushing an enemy up in the air and then force pulling them back down. And you just have all this new arsenal of abilities, these new skill sets that are brand new to this game, along with the skill set that you acquired from the last game. So that is just like the perfect, in my opinion, the perfect way to do a sequel. Don't make me go back and reacquire and relearn
Yeah,
all these old
really
abilities.
hate that. Yeah, really hate that design thing of where the first half of the sequel is regaining what you had accomplished towards the end of that game is a complete waste of time.
And
It
you
doesn't,
see
it
it.
gets straight to the point.
Yeah, and you see it all the time where you have to totally relearn shit that it's like, I just did this, in the first game. It's like, why the hell am I relearning all this stuff? It throws off the story, it throws off everything. And it, I mean, just you got a blaster pistol in this game that you can use. You got the dual wielding lightsabers that can turn it more into a character action game. You got the heavy sword that can turn it much more into like a Dark Souls game, more methodical. You have the Darth Maul style blade that gives you wider range of attack. And the bounty hunter quests where they like spontaneously pop up, the Holo Tactics minigame, which I'm not even a tactics game guy, but it's so damn addictive. You go off and you like collect these little figures and you can play them in the game, and it's like a big poker tournament style event where you go up against these different opponents. I love this game. Love it so
You
much.
you can tell they're a fan of the IP because all them things are obviously things that exist in the universe. Like you see, like even just that tactics game thing. You see one, I think it was in the what was it? The one of the older films. They showed something very
Oh
similar
yeah,
to
yeah,
that, where
yeah.
it's like chess and stuff.
Yep.
So they've seen it and they implement it into that, and that just it helps on the world building so much to make
So
you more
much.
immersed. Because, like you said, you're not even a tactics, but you were gripped in, like, oh, I like this. This is immersive.
Totally. Yeah. And having the mounts and stuff, just like the different ways to
Mm.
get around the world, being able to tame the mounts and ride around. And dude, yeah, it was so fun. It's definitely my favorite game of the generation so far. And I don't think what does this even mean? But I don't think by the end of the generation it will be. There is definitely room like this. So in comparison, Red Dead 2 would be my favorite game of last generation. And that feels like an impossible game to dethrone. This doesn't feel that way. Like this feels like there is room for something to take that spot. But so far, out of the 4 years we've had currently, it would be my game of the generation.
Interesting. I'm sure it will. Yeah, definitely. It should. And that's a mindset that we all should have. Shouldn't just settle for what we have. We want more.
For sure. But I think you kind of do know sometimes whenever and you're always going to be open to something taking that place. But there are those games like those seminal like transformative experiences like a Red Dead 2 for me where it's like I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how it gets any better than this, but I don't feel quite that strongly about Jedi Survivor, but it's up there, man, for sure.
Cool. Right. So my number one, the one you thought would be Elden Ring, but it hasn't been.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
Lo- Love Souls likes, but there's a genre that just edges it for me, and that's CRPGs. And it's not Baldur's Gate 3. I'm
That's what I was
completely, I'm not. It's not Baldur's Gate 3. Haven't finished it, so I can't qualify for the list. Oh boy, wish it could have been Pillars 3, but we never got that. So I settle for what I view as Pillars now of the continuation, and that's what Pathfinder has done. They've picked up the torch. They gave us Kingmaker, a little bit rough, a little bit wobbly, had really, really good potential, but number one is Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, a game that had an atrocious launch, which it feels like we've said that for about 70% of these damn
I
games for
swear.
this generation. You're talking about a launch where I couldn't do any combat other than a basic attack in a CRPG, and that's criminal. That's absolutely criminal. But that aside, they fixed it, of course. Holy hell, this game is just the gift that keeps on giving. Like, you're talking insane levels of depth from a character creating perspective, really engaging combat, and then I've never played a CRPG where you have this level of like a power fantasy because you have the normal where you have a class and a race and you level that up. But you genuinely are the chosen one because you have this extra like type of a class which is a mythic path. So you can literally become like a lich. You can become an angel and stuff like that, and it just blows the doors wide open for that power fantasy. And the companions as well across the board, like they were very divisive in Kingmaker, but like I think every single character is really, really well written. and voiced. And that's the thing that needs to happen to move CRPGs further forward into the mainstream is you need to start voicing these things a lot more. Because you see this with Baldur's Gate 3, and this is why it's become so attached to people because they're able to put themselves into the shoes of these characters that they've created, actually interacting with somebody that's talking to them. You have these extremely cinematic cutscenes, and that's something that Pathfinder lacks a little bit because it is just you're seeing it from a bird's eye point of view kind of thing, and it's a text box. But they have, you're talking 1% of their budget, it feels like at times, than Larian does. Like they don't have
Right.
any way near the pool that they do, but man, they had a release recently, Owlcat, which was a Warhammer game as well, and that did really, really well. And they're really building on something here. It's one of them teams where you need to keep an eye on them because you know, this very well may be the next Larian. They have that potential in them as to seriously bring out things that you wouldn't think and you would overlook.
So I'm looking at the gameplay of it right now. Is this like, do you get to make choices and stuff in here? Or is it more
Yeah,
just
no, yeah, yeah.
okay, cool.
You have complete. That's what it's a game. I don't know how you play. Like some people can't play like evil characters, have to play good characters and stuff. They make it really compelling to be an evil character in this game.
I
Like
love that.
you're talking down the lich path. You can make people your undead minions, like main plot crucial characters, and you can just be like, look, like the end justifies the means because you're still needing to stop the big calamity that's going on, but your justification is I will use these evil powers because this is what we need to do to get to the greater good.
And is it real time or turn based? I can't really
It
tell.
it's either. It's whatever you want it to be. It gives you the
Really?
option. And you can change it on the fly if you don't like the flow of it, you don't have to start the game again. It's literally one button press. And
Jesus.
that is what Pillars had begun with. They had started that trend, and Owlcat have perfected.
How long is it?
Oh God. Uh,
It, you're talking
let
hundreds.
me let me quickly bring up Kingmaker as a reference because it must be hundreds. Because the thing is that they're constantly adding DLCs as well, and that's something also I'll give them props for. They dropped a season pass for one of the DLCs, and people were like, "Dude, this sucks," and they were like, "Okay, we won't do this then. So we'll add this content for free then. What do you want us to do?" And they listened to that feedback and they delivered on that feedback.
Nice. So I'm looking, it's saying that they just got a physical release of it as well. So maybe I'll have
What,
to,
of Wrath of the Righteous?
yeah. Uh
I don't think it was just. I've got it right here. Had it since release.
oh, so it's been available since day
There you
one?
go. Got that.
Nice. So
Beautiful.
okay, sick. Oh yeah, my bad. This article is from August 17th, 2022. Well, hell yeah, dude. I'll grab. Is it available on, I'm guessing all platforms probably.
I would be shocked if it's not available on PlayStation. It must be.
Definitely. Oh,
The Warhammer game they put out recently didn't get a physical, which was a shocker for me.
that is weird.
But
Yeah,
it's
okay.
because you're talking, for instance, like I use True Achievements a lot, and this isn't obviously a one-to-one representation of how many copies have sold because it's only people that use the site, but it's a good metric to get like a rough estimate. And it shows here that only 1,750 people have played that game on True Achievement.
Oh wow,
So
Jesus.
when I say CRPGs do not sell on console, I'm not kidding. Like you're talking Pillars, for instance. Like, let me type this in. Pillars.
It's looking like that was a really limited print run. I'm only seeing a couple.
Well,
couple
Wrath of the
copies.
Righteous.
Yeah, so that it kind of going right back to what you were saying. Yeah, it's because I'm even looking
Yeah,
on
Pillars of
eBay.
Eternity was 9,000 people, and that's been out for years.
Jesus.
Pillars of Eternity 2, 6,000 on Xbox, and you're talking this has been a thing that's been day one available on Game Pass.
Well,
They
dude,
don't even shift 10,000 copies.
I'm buying a copy of it right now. So go ahead and
And
grab
it's
that
good
bad
because you
boy.
don't need to play Kingmaker. They are separate stories, and it's just so good.
Yeah,
It's just so good,
that is getting
and
got for sure.
I hope that it kickstarts your love for CRPGs because
Yeah.
it'll be
Well,
a good stepping stone to also comparing it with Baldur's Gate because they're both amazing in their own rights, but they do things very differently.
yeah. Well, I mean, hell, dude, the fact that it's real-time combat to me is a lot more compelling
Yeah,
than
because you can
turn-based.
not to say that you wouldn't be talented, but you can just bump the difficulty down and just let it do its thing. You have your companions, you they do their own crap in that, so you don't need to micromanage unless you want to, and you can just focus on the story. And the
Right.
story is absolutely incredible.
Shit, yeah, dude. Well, I grabbed a copy of it. Found one for actually 28 bucks. So not too
Hell yeah.
bad. I'd probably recommend people who are tuning into this if the game looks cool. Obviously, I'll have gameplay of it running and everything. If you like what you see, I'd probably recommend if you're a physical collector, going ahead and grabbing a copy because there's not a
See,
lot that I'm
no,
seeing.
CRPGs do not sell well, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah, and I'm sure
They
it got
don't
a
get
limited
reprints.
that's what, yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I'm sure it didn't get a huge print run in the first place. So, Loon, that has been a good ramble fest there. Our top 10 games of the generation. And we'll have to rejoin forces in 2028 and do this again.
Older, wiser, and full of grey hair.
But I appreciate you for joining me, man. And yeah, definitely check out. I'll have your channel linked and all that in the description and probably in the title and all that shit so people can go and check that out. But
Yeah, if they
appreciate
want to
you for
hear about Embracer imploding, was
three
the
hour.
recent one, and then yeah, we have the upcoming one where it'll be achievement related, if that's of any interest.
Definitely, definitely. So go over and check that out. Are you going to be doing your physical collection as well? Your Xbox physical collection?
Yeah, I was gonna try and get one more video out in
Cool,
between then. Yeah,
cool, cool.
more showing of what we all own, the bad
Nice.
financial decisions that we all
I swear to God, yeah, I'm about to make another one. But
make.
man, it's been a blast, and I will be joining you on your channel in the coming weeks, days, something, sometime pretty soon. So we'll get
Yeah,
over there, and you shall see that episode when it drops. And without any further ado, hit me in the comments down below with your top 10 games of the generation and any recommendations that you have. All that good stuff. Always appreciate the feedback. And until next time, my good people, take it easy and goodbye.